Hi, my name is Joe Pulizzi. I'm super excited to talk to you today about the 7 keys to building and monetizing an audience through content creation. If you don't know about me, I am a founder of The Tilt, a digital news site for content creators and content entrepreneurs. My latest book is Content Inc. You'll hear about this in the presentation today. I've written a novel called The Will to Die. We run on cryptocurrency at thetilt.com. You can find that on the rally.io network at rally.io/creator/tilt. And then you may know me from Content Marketing Institute, Content Marketing World. But today I'm here to talk to you about the 7 keys for what you can take from content creation, content marketing, what I think you need to know now. Really what we're talking about here, number one, less content, more impact. We're going to talk about your content tilt a little bit. Then number 3, we're going to talk about your content marketing mission statement. We're going to talk about consistency. We're going to talk about stealing talent, acquiring content assets, and then preparing for multiple lines of revenue. And I want to start here and just think about, if you stop producing all your content, would your customers even notice? It's an important question. I mean, there's so much content out there. I mean, would you, how do you break through all that content? How do you break through all that clutter? And a lot of us think the first thing we need to do is we need to create more content, but actually you don't. You want to create less content. So that's number one. So what I want you to start thinking about is, how do media companies do it? What's their model? Media companies build one great thing first, and then they go ahead and diversify. And if you look at the greatest content marketing examples from around the world, like Red Bull Media House, or you look at media brands like New York Times or TED Talks or Huffington Post, they started by doing one thing great. A print magazine, in Red Bull's case, a newspaper in New York Times, a speaking series for TED Talks. They focused on one great thing and then they diversified, but marketers don't do that. What we generally do is we want to create as much content as we can on every platform and see if we can build an audience, but that doesn't work. We don't want to immediately diversify. And I'm a big fan of MailChimp, the email marketing service. But if you look at MailChimp Presents, when they launched that program, they tried to launch documentaries, video series, shorts, 8, 9, 10 of them all at the same time. And it's almost impossible to build a loyal audience by doing that, because we only have what I call so much content energy. If we've got only a limited amount of content energy, let's say that this is a chocolate bar, we spread out our content energy into these bits and pieces. And then what most companies do is they take that content energy and they spread it out to everything possible. So they say, okay, I'm going to put a little bit to the blog. We're having an okay podcast. We're going to have a so-so research. We're going to have an okay email newsletter, do a little social media, do an event, but we're not great at anything. And we have to hit that great line if we're going to build a loyal audience. So what we want to do is we want to allocate that content energy, and we want to put it to one or two things. So in this case, we'll take all those chocolate pieces, that energy we have, and we put it towards an amazing email newsletter or the most interesting podcast we've ever seen. That's how we build a loyal audience over time. Great example of this is Homemade Simple from Procter & Gamble. They started off with just a blog post series as well as an email newsletter. They just did that. And now today, if you look at them, they've got television series, they've got all sorts of branded products and services, but they only started with a blog and an email newsletter. And this is sort of the model to follow. We'll talk more about this in a little bit, but you figure out who is your target audience, what's your content tilt, what's your area of differentiation, what's your hook, what makes you special. One content type. Is it audio, video, textual plus image? And then one made platform. Is it a blog? Is it an email newsletter? Is it a YouTube series? Is it a Twitch stream? What is it? That's how we build a loyal audience over time. So that's one. Less is more. Number 2, revisit your content tilt. This is from my book, Content Inc. This is the Content Inc. model. And the first 2 steps are strategy. The first step is sweet spot, and then into the content tilt. If we want to build a loyal audience and monetize that audience, we've got to do these things first. So if we look at first the sweet spot is your intersection between your expertise area and your audience's desire. That's where we start. So if we start with the things that you know better than anyone else, what are those knowledge areas? What are those special skills that make you interesting, that you know better than anyone? We want to start there. And then we go over to the audience and say, okay, what are their pain points? What keeps my audience up at night? What's the biggest problem in their lives? What can we fix with content that we can't fix necessarily with our product or service? And we start there in the intersection. There is the sweet spot, but then we have to take it to the next step. The next step is the most important thing you could do, and that's called the content tilt. And I want to give you an example. So let's say that you are going to do a YouTube series on cloud computing, or you're doing a blog on cloud computing. And then you go and you look at all the information on cloud computing, and you've got Amazon, you've got Oracle, and you've got Microsoft and Salesforce, and they're all talking about exactly the same things in the same way. You're never going to break through and create an audience and get attention if we're talking about something in the same way as everyone else. So this is identical content. They've got billions of dollars in budget. They can afford to do this. We can't. So we look at our content tilt. We want to find an area of little to no competition on the web that actually gives you a chance to break through all that clutter. So here's a really good example. Anne Reardon, the baking queen of Sydney, Australia, she wanted to do a video blog around cooking. Well, how many of those are there? A ton. So she started this thing. She got 100 YouTube subscribers in 2012. She was elated, and now she's got over 4 million subscribers. She's a multimillionaire going with the brand How to Cook That. How did she break through? How did she differentiate? With things like this. She said, I can almost make a working camera out of chocolate. Look at that complexity that she put in that recipe. And then look at, she has a Fanta bottle that if you cut in half, it's a layer cake from How to Cook That. Or maybe it's a 5-pound Snickers bar. So as you can see, she really differentiated through impossible dessert creations. On the one side, she's a food scientist. She knows her stuff. What her audience want? Step-by-step recipes. That's great. But how did she differentiate? That made all the difference. Impossible dessert creations. So we've got to start thinking like Anne is. So you've got to find your tilt. So what can you do? So first of all, you might say, well, let me look at my audience. Maybe I can niche down. So your audience might be, let's say, plant managers, or if you're in a business-to-business area. Or maybe you then say, okay, well, I'm going to do not just plant managers, but plant managers who, for companies with 10,000 or more people who outsource parts to India and China. Much better. We can be the leading informational expert in the world if we focus on that kind of niche. Or maybe you want to reposition the story. When I launched Content Marketing Institute back in 2009, 2010, we basically took the term content marketing and used it, created our own category. So when it started to become popular, people found us because nobody was calling it content marketing at the time. So maybe you can create a whole category by repositioning the story. HubSpot, the marketing automation company, did the same thing with inbound marketing. Maybe it's a different platform. So if you look at the different platforms available, maybe there's no one doing what you're doing on Twitch, or maybe there's an opportunity on Instagram with Instagram stories to do something, or maybe it's Clubhouse. I don't know, but maybe look at differentiating by platform. Now let's go into the content mission statement. This is a really good way to identify and distill your content tilt. So what do media companies do that us regular mortal content creators don't do most of the time? They actually have an editorial mission statement. They have a guiding light. They have a North Star, that everything they create is focused on what are we differentiating with, and who's our target audience, and what value are we going to deliver. Again, this is not what we sell. Is nothing in your content mission statement is about what you sell. It's about what you stand for and what you need to deliver to your audience. Let me give you an example. So here's India Manufacturing. They manufacture industrial soldering equipment. They started a blog called From One Engineer to Another. And how did they truly differentiate this? What did they do? They said, we're going to create a content mission. We're going to focus on helping engineers answer the most challenging industrial soldering questions. They felt they could be the leading expert in the world on that. They did that, and now this is their best lead generation effort that they do out of all their marketing. So let's break this down. If we look at a site like Digital Photography School, they have a content marketing mission statement. You can find it on their About Us page. So you'd say there's 3 parts to this: core target audience, what are we going to deliver, and then what's the outcome for our audience. So they do Welcome to Digital Photography School, a website with simple tips to help digital camera owners get the most out of their cameras. So core target audience, digital camera owners. What are we going to deliver? Simple tips. What's the outcome for the audience? The most important, helping them get the most out of their cameras. Remember, we're not pitching our products and services here. We're trying to help them live a better life, get a better job, something like that. Now, if you have multiple target audiences, you need multiple content mission statements. I started out in publishing. We had 43 different media brands. We had 43 different content mission statements. You have to do the same thing. So when you start your content meeting out, what you want to make sure is you want to lead with your content mission statement before every meeting. This is a living, breathing thing, so you can update it as you go and learn more things about your audience and what you're good at telling stories around. Number 4, consistency. There's 2 reasons why content marketing fails. One, we talked about no content tilt, no differentiation, no hook, no reason for people to pay attention. And the other one is consistency. So we need to do 2 things. We need to, number 1, show up on time every time, whether that's a daily, a weekly, a monthly, however we're delivering our content in whatever channel. And number 2, we absolutely have to be interesting when we do it. So I'm just going to go through a number of different consistency levels for the things that you might want to do. So if you have a blog, your blog might be between 500 and 2,000 words. You probably need to do a weekly blog or greater consistently over time. Like here's my newsletter, the random newsletter. It's about, your average newsletter should be longer, between 500 and 2,000 words. Those are the winning ones today, like Morning Brew and the New York Times do. You need exclusive content. And if you're not doing at least monthly, you're probably missing out on something. If it's a YouTube series, it's weekly or more, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, but make sure it's consistently over those days, 5 to 15 minutes long. It's longer form content. It's not short form anymore on YouTube. If you look at a podcast, weekly to daily, generally 30 to 90 minutes is your sweet spot time. If you have a Facebook group is all video today. You want to do daily videos, 45 seconds to 2 minutes in time. If it's Instagram, it's daily. Instagram's going to video, but you need to choose. Are you going to do all video? Or are you going to do all images? And you need to do it daily if you're going to make this thing work. And then you've got something like a TikTok video daily and 20 seconds. Now, if you're going to build on rented land, which are platforms that you do not have first-party data, that you do not control, what we want to do, you can build those audiences there, but we have to have a rent-to-own strategy. We want to move to subscribers, from followers, fans, to subscribers. So what does that mean? What's our rent-to-own strategy? That means if you're building on Facebook that you can't control and you don't understand the algorithm because they change it all the time, the same thing with Snapchat or TikTok or Twitch or whatever, you want to move it up the chain to email newsletters, owned websites, owned blogs, owned membership, things that we can own and we can control. So there's nothing wrong with building a strategy on somebody else's land, but at some point we want to move that over so we actually build an asset. To do that, you probably need a remarkable email newsletter. It's amazing how much email has really come back as a key. And if you look at something like a BuzzFeed saved their entire business model by focusing now on over 60 different targeted email newsletters. They've got millions of people opted into that. It's amazing. Or somebody like John Lee Dumas, who created a podcast, doesn't have a lot of control over what Apple does there. So he focused on directing people from the podcast over to his website to sign up for his email newsletter. At The Tilt, our new company, we have an email newsletter. That's our core platform. And we like 2 social channels. And we forget about the rest for now because we can only do so much with the resources we have. So you use LinkedIn and Twitter in our case, and we want to direct those back to build an audience with our email newsletter. 3 more. Number 5, steal talent. This is really brief, but if you're looking for the greatest talent out there, where are you going to go? You look at the greatest media companies in your industry. You want to list those media content competitors, and then you go to their masthead. I call this fleecing the masthead. Go to their About Us site, just like when you had a print magazine back in the day and you looked at the masthead and you find out who those contributors are. You find a contributor that you really like. Generally, a lot of these contributors are not full-time employees and they're willing to do work on the outside. So you go ahead and you find those people so you don't have to struggle around finding good talent, and go ahead and have a freelance relationship with them. Number 6, big move right now in acquiring content assets and acquisitions. If you look at The Hustle, that just got purchased. It's a 1.5 million audience. It was an entrepreneurial email newsletter. HubSpot just bought them for a little less than $30 million US. It's amazing. You're seeing a lot of these opportunities out there right now. We did the same thing when I was at Content Marketing Institute. We looked at bolt-on properties. We wanted a West Coast technology event, West Coast United States technology event. We wanted an awards program. We went on and purchased them for not much money, and it really added to the asset value of the organization. And we didn't have to spend 3-4 years building something like that. We went out and purchased. So make your list. Make your list of your content competitors, YouTubers, podcasters, newsletters providers. Make that list and then go approach those people and start figuring out if there's partnership opportunities or an opportunity for you to purchase. I don't care how big or small you are as a company, there's an opportunity here for smaller, mid-size, and large deals. And the last one, if you're creating content and building a loyal audience, we want to focus on multiple revenue sources. So if we look at the Content Inc. revenue model, once you build a loyal audience, there's 10 different ways that you can monetize that audience. And we'll just go through them just so you have a look. And it doesn't matter if you're a media company or you sell products or services. We can do all these things. And there's no difference between a media company and a product company that has a media arm. So we're all the same today. But if you look at advertising sponsorship at Content Marketing Institute, we sold banners and buttons like a lot of people. We had sponsored webinars. If you look at conferences and events, you've got somebody like a Dream Salesforce that has Dreamforce. Used to be huge event. It'll get back to that after COVID dies down, hopefully, fingers crossed. If you look at premium content, we sell books like Content Inc. or audiobooks like Killing Marketing. So we sell that premium content whenever we can. Maybe you have such a great mission, you can get donations. If you look at a site like Mother Jones, most of their revenue comes from donations from subscribers. If you've got an affiliate program or people click on that link and you make money, if you look at something like a Morning Brew email newsletter, at the bottom of every newsletter, they direct to products and services. Every time somebody clicks or buys something, they get revenue share of that. And then maybe you want to sell subscriptions. So copyblogger.com is a writing site. They have a Copyblogger Pro program where you can get $4.95 a year membership. So these are the things that you can do. Now, if we go to the outside, which are content marketing, KPIs, key performance indicators, revenue channels here. If you look at products, you might look at something like Indium. We talked about before. Indium created, they had 27 engineers blogging on a regular basis. People find their blogs, they sign up, they get leads, and then they convert those leads into products and services. Then you might just have services. At Content Marketing Institute, we didn't even have to market our consulting services. They came in naturally from people signing up to the different things that we had to offer. If we look at loyal customers, you look at something like John Deere's The Furrow magazine, been going on since 1897. Why did John Deere create The Furrow magazine in print and online? Because when people that read The Furrow magazine buy more John Deere products and tractors. And then the last one is, how do you create better customers from a loyal audience? Think Money from TD Ameritrade, digital and print magazine. What they found out is those traders that read this magazine trade 5 times more than those that don't. So they're creating 500% ROI based on people reading their publication. Now, when you look at the Content Inc. model and you go through this process of less is more, and you go through this building an audience and monetizing, it takes about 18 months until you get to significant monetization. It's very, very hard to go 6 to 9 months and actually build something that's worth its salt, and it's going to deliver revenue for your company. So you have to have patience when you do this. So in review, number 1, less content, more impact. Instead of spreading yourself out, focus on being great at 1 or 2 things. Tune up your content tilt. What makes you different? What are your audience's pain points? How can you solve those pain points in a new and interesting way? Build your content mission statement. You can't do anything without it. Review it with your team on an ongoing basis. Be consistent or don't even bother. Find great talent by stealing other people's talent. Go to their masthead. Acquiring content assets. If you're not patient and you have some funds, go ahead and buy those content brands and bring them into your fold. And the 7th thing is, we have to prepare for multiple revenue sources. We know the best content marketers, the best content entrepreneurs out there have at least 4 different revenue options with their content creation. We want to do the same. So before we go, last thing, be very specific with your audience. The more specific, the better. Think about how you can truly be different. Create your content mission statement if you don't have one. And then think of all the things that you might want to stop doing so you can focus on a few things and be absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. Hope you have a great event. Thank you for giving me this time. If you want any information about me, just subscribe to our content creation newsletter at thetilt.com. And you can find me at Joe Pulizzi, Pulizzi, anywhere on social media and the web. Thank you very much and have a great event.